welcome back, everybody. Today, you've heard a lot of information about the SBIR and STTR programs, and hopefully, you had the chance to talk to some of our agency representatives. As mentioned, the SBIR and STTR programs are a great source of non-dilutive funding for businesses and are an integral part of the innovation ecosystem. And you've heard quite a bit about the innovation ecosystem today, highlighting various ways you can tap into it. Spoiler alert, you'll continue to hear about this ecosystem tomorrow. But you probably have a question in your mind right now, and that is, what exactly is the innovation ecosystem? You've heard that term thrown out a lot, but nobody really defined it. Why is this thing such a big deal, and how can I effectively make use of it? Well, in the next panel, we will tackle those questions. Normally, I would do the thing where I introduce the moderator, give a quick bio for the moderator, but I'm actually moderating the next panel, and I'm not comfortable playing with the levels of reality that would dictate I introduce myself and welcome myself to the stage. So we're just going to jump right in. I'm going to be joined on this panel by Christy Bell, Evelyn Halkenbe, and Ann Peterson, who have been instrumental in our Mesas to Mountains program. So let's actually go ahead and get this panel started. So thank you, Evelyn, Ann, and Christy should be joining us here very shortly. Now, I would like to start off our panel here with one thing that potentially is confusing people, one thing that people may not know about, one thing that people may not understand. And that is, to each of you, what does the innovation ecosystem mean?
Good question. You want to go first, Evelyn?
Yeah, I can go first. And I just want to say thank you, Del, for putting this together. I know it's been a lot of work, but I am getting a lot out of it myself. And so I can't imagine how much people and participants are learning today. And to answer your question, for me, the innovation ecosystem, it's your industry network. So, for example, in the state of Alaska, as a small business owner, you will have this network that your small business interacts with. You will be any kind of a stakeholder, either stake stakeholder, a university stakeholder, other businesses that collaborate and could potentially be competitors as well are your innovation ecosystem. So it is, I think, one of the most important things that you need to figure out really early stage to understand how to leverage it. So you find resources in this innovation ecosystem, you'll find most likely support. And part of the innovation ecosystem are institutions like ourselves, like universities, people like Dell, Ann, and myself that want to have a stake in supporting you through the process of being a successful entrepreneur. So that's my take on innovation ecosystem. And I will be curious to see what Ann thinks.
Yeah. No, thanks, Evelyn. I think that's brilliant. Again, everyone, I am Ann Peterson. I'm the program director for the Montana Innovation Partnership, and we're based at MSU's TechLink Center in Bozeman, Montana. But our program serves everybody in Montana who are considering pursuing SBIR or STTR. And that's just it. The ecosystem is really anybody who can help you to achieve the impact that you want to do with your technology. When we think about SBIR and even working with federal research labs, we're talking about public and private partnerships, right? A lot of you may have heard that phrase already, public-private partnership. And that is exactly what the ecosystem is here to try to support. How do we help early stage founders collaborate with those in the ecosystem that can help them develop their product development for technology that can have a really important impact in the world, whether it's to help the warfighter, whether it's for a broader societal impact or public health effort. And the ecosystem really means those entities, both private as well as public, that can help you achieve those goals. So it can be state partnerships, it can be university partnerships, it can be industry resources and alliances. I would encourage everybody to consider the industries that they're involved with and take a look at what type of alliance organizations are out there, because they're made up of other companies that are in your field. And most of them are very helpful at mentoring new startups in the area. So take a look at that. And then also collaborations like us, where we're trying to make sure that we're broadening our reach to reach rural innovators, other underrepresented innovators, to help connect you with resources that can help you succeed.
Sorry, I was doing some backstage magic there to just highlight the three of us. So I think those are really great points that both Evelyn and Anne brought up about the innovation ecosystem. And I would like to stress one of those words. You've heard a lot about innovation, but ecosystem is the big word here for me, because as both Anne and Evelyn said, the ecosystem, it's this encompassing thing. It's these public-private partnerships that you're utilizing. It's the people you're bringing to the table. It's the organizations that you're getting support from. It's the federal labs that you're reaching out to and that you're inking collaborative deals with, or that they're helping you, take your technology to the next stage. Or it's the universities you're working with for like workforce development, or hiring students, or bringing them on as partners. Or the innovation ecosystem, actually, to me, is really that this is going to help me take that next step. This is what I can tap into. This is the resource I can utilize. This is the organization that's going to help me. This is just, at the end of the day, who's going to help me move forward? How are they going to help me move forward? And kind of why do they care about helping me move forward? And I'd also like to, take that why do they care and kind of jump off of it to kind of remind people about, Mesas to Mountains is part of the innovation ecosystem. All of the organizations you heard from today are part of the innovation ecosystem. And Evelyn, myself, we're part of the innovation ecosystem. Our organizations are. The impetus for us doing Mesas to Mountains and for kind of bringing all of our talent together, our collaborative, know-how, our ability to help people move forward was just, there's a lot of people that are kind of stuck. They're trying to figure out where they can go, what they can do next, and what they can tap into. And some of them don't even know about all the different tools, the resources, the opportunities that are out there. And we saw that, as a need, and we saw that as a way to kind of bring everything. Okay, there we go. Hi, Christy. To bring everybody together, bring everything together, and be that resource that people can look to and people can kind of make use of. Speaking of resources, I want to remind people the purpose of this panel today is for the innovation ecosystem to be able to help you. So, how are you going to be able to best utilize that? Drop questions into the chat. When you signed up for a ticket, when you registered, there was a field on there. We're going to have a panel on the innovation ecosystem. What is a question that you want to know the answer to? We took those questions. Those aren't the only questions that we can answer. We are all smart. We are maneuverable. We can answer questions on the fly. So drop them into the chat. And I'm going to let Christy kind of really quickly introduce herself and talk about what she thinks the innovation ecosystem is.
Hi, can you hear me, Del? Great. Yep. Oh, I apologize. I couldn't get my machine to connect after the lunch break, so I apologize for being late. I'm glad that I received a little technical help to get me going. I'm Christy Bell. I'm a certified licensing professional with TechLink, and I'm an SBIR program consultant to Ann Peterson's program in Montana, Montana Innovation Partnership. So together, Ann and I offer technical assistance from the very basic level of understanding what SBIR is, all the way to a deep phase 2 review and commentary on a commercial plan. So in Montana, we're positioned, fortunately, to be able to support companies really at any level of their SBIR interest.
And let's actually just go ahead and dive into some questions that we gathered from people. And I think this is probably kind of at the heart of it is a bit of a redundant question. You heard a lot about this, but it is also a great way for us to start off this panel about the innovation ecosystem. One of the questions that we got, and we actually got the question quite a lot from the ticket sales and the registration, is what kind of assistance is available to help me with putting together a strong SBIR, STTR proposal? And how do we find out who is offering assistance? Should I pay someone to help me develop my proposal, to help me write my proposal, to help me do something with the proposal and get it in? And I want to go to the panelists one by one, and I want Anne to start off with answering that question of what kind of assistance is available to help me put together a strong proposal.
Yeah, I know that. I'm so glad that folks asked that question, Del. That's what we're about. Many of you heard Jennifer talk about the FAST programs and the Catalyst programs. Obviously, we're funded in part through the federal and state technology partnerships. This Catalyst grant, we're designed, our organizations are here to support you on your SBIR journey, really whatever that takes. And different agencies, different states may have slightly different flavors to their FAST programs, but ours here in Montana and this whole group here are really pretty much full service in the sense of coaching you along the way, understanding what it takes to just get registered for that, understanding what it takes to really be successful by considering, do you really have a concept that is appropriate for SBIR? Do you have a really clear, and if you don't have it to start with, we can help coach you along the way. Do you have a clear identification of what your product development roadmap needs to look like and how you can best leverage this type of funding and other sources of funding, which are going to be necessary to get your product eventually to market? So we want to make sure that you have a really clear sense of your research and development plan. We want to make sure that you're connected with the team, that you have a strong team. And we want to make sure that you're considering the significance and impact. Those are really some of the three criteria that you're going to be assessed on if you're doing SBIR. We want to make sure that you have what it takes to really run this gauntlet. If you haven't gotten the sense by now, this is not rocket science, but it is not for the faint of heart. You want to make sure that you're taking this very seriously. You're treating this like a project. And I'm going to say, address the aspect of how we help. We definitely are, as Christy mentioned, really your coach, your team, like your navigation in terms of the SBIR project. We also have business backgrounds, technical as well as business backgrounds, the members of our team, as well as all members of our teams and our partners, so that we can really help you, connect you with resources that are needed. But we'll help make sure that you're focusing with the end game in mind. When we talk about how we help you, we may help a little bit more on the commercialization side in terms of writing more in depth, but for the most part, these are research and development proposals. I'm going to say, I'm going to go out on the limb. The editorial comment from my standpoint is that if you are not directly involved in the writing of your proposal, I do not think it's going to be as successful. That doesn't mean that there aren't grant writers that you can bring in to help from a project management standpoint to help you with that. But most of our clients are not using that. They are developing and writing these. And that's really our job, is to help deconstruct the process of preparing very competitive proposals so that you can be as successful as possible in these agency solicitations.
And Evelyn is let's call it the newbie here, the newest person to the world of SBIR and STTR. What do you think about kind of the assistance that you can provide and what's important about that assistance?
Thanks for the question. So, as Anne just mentioned, the FAST program actually recently added a couple of new states under the umbrella, and Alaska is one of those. So, I'm very excited and thankful, obviously, for the opportunity, and we will be able to provide the support for small businesses and entrepreneurs to apply for this type of funding. But in the same type of support that Anne just touched base on, I think what I want to do first is to really just outreach to the community and
Mhm.
tell them all about America's Seed Fund. That is the baseline of the work that we're going to be doing, and just tell everyone about what is the opportunities, what the federal agencies are looking for, and bring that what we call sometimes the gospel of this type of project. I think it's a huge opportunity, and it has its barriers if you're not familiar of what the federal agencies want, what the topics are, the technical writing aspects of the grant. But the first barrier is really to become aware of the opportunity. So I think our first milestone is going to be to talk to as many people, as many innovators, as many small businesses, as many organizations in the state of Alaska to tell them all about the America Seed Fund program. And that's kind of the first support I see, I think, like short term. And after that, we're hoping to give more of a targeted support and just helping people choose an agency, right? There
Mhm.
are so many agencies, and the more you learn about them, the more of a potential opportunity you could be a good fit or not. But also there are other type of opportunities that you could be maybe a good fit for a couple of agencies. You just need to make sure that your phase one and your scope of work is the right fit. But I think the other aspect that maybe we don't talk about a lot is that people really need to fit their SBAR, STTR strategy as a part of their business plan. So
Mhm.
the SBAR, STTR opportunity is not, I guess, the end goal of what they're hoping to do, but they also need to work on a business plan. And for that, there are other innovation ecosystem resources and institutions such as SBDCs available in more of the states, and they provide you with a small business advisor, and they have resources to help people write a business plan. And when I say writing a business plan, it is a little bit old school, right? Because you're looking into developing a 30-page document, but the business plan writing aspect is just to make sure that you have everything lined out for your own uh, I'll say like well-being of your business, but also to be successful, more successful for SBR and STTRs. And this is added as a seed funding option, but then long term you're most likely looking into other type of investment, maybe seed funding from an angel investor in your state or throughout the country, or venture capital, or even if you want to go the bank route, probably have a loan. So these are a lot of things maybe that I just kind of like drop down here for everyone, but the technical aspect and innovation ecosystem will support you through this process, through the development of your own business plan, to identifying your best opportunity for an SBR, SDTR. And then me, myself, will help you selecting an agency and then reviewing your grant. There are other options. There are phase zero grants awarded in some other programs. So if you search for phase zero technical assistant, it's for first time applicants that want to apply for this type of funding. And there is a $10,000 type of grant,
Mhm.
especially for the state of Alaska. We offer that. And that is for you to either block time for yourself and be able to essentially, if you have a full-time job, maybe take a couple of days off and dedicate that time developing and writing this grant. But if not, also you could maybe find a grant writer that could help you develop in the grant. But like Anne mentioned, that's not ideal because the only person really that knows the innovation, hopefully, it's it's the entrepreneur, it's or the innovator, it's yourself. So you want to know at least all the different elements of the innovation, the phase one, the technical aspect, the research that you want to do, and then maybe confide on a grant writer writing if your writing skills are not good. For example, I'm not an English speaker, so I would potentially consider someone that has better writing skills in English to write the grant for me. But that doesn't mean that I'm not the expert on the innovation or the business. that is the opposite. That means that I'm just relying on the services to make sure that the content is laid out right and the grammar is perfect and it's really well smooth and it's a really good story to share and tell. But obviously, I will recognize that. And finally, I just want to add that as an innovation um, research ecosystem, the universities are there to help you as well. If you try to find a researcher that is working in your area of technology and wants to collaborate with you and do the research in partnership and collaboration with you, that's a really good resource to get at least the feasibility and the technical aspect of the innovation covered. So really consider that and ask Dale, talk to Anne or Christy about how does that work before. Maybe that's something we can discuss, but I don't want to take over. So that's it.
Well, no worries at all there, Evelyn. And, Christy, same question to you.
There we go. Every state has some kind of SBIR support system. The problem is they're all very different. It depends on which states have a focus on innovation, which states have a focus on bringing federal grant monies into their state, and their structure of the support, be it cash or direct assistance, will be very different. It'll be very easy for folks to find out what is supported in their state. Simply type into your search engine SBIR and the name of your state, and you'll be directed to resources. On sbir.gov, we learned in an earlier workshop today that there is a resource section, and you can choose to look by state or to look by FAST awardees. FAST stands for Federal and State Technology Partnership, and it's the state's partnership with the SBIR program to support businesses like yours. So there is that place to look as well. States are incentivized to bring SBIR awardees into the communities because they create great jobs. And states want to be on the innovation map, and they want things to be developed, to be born of and by the people in their state. So there are incentives that drive them to support either financially or with assistance the SBIR proposal process. A state like Montana, we offer sort of a hybrid of both. Anne has a phase zero kind of fund. That means a little bit of money to develop the proposal before you submit your phase one application. She has a little bit of that to help provide maybe some drawings at a engineering facility, or maybe a little bit of preliminary lab work, some market research, different, maybe some SBIR organization and writing services. And then we also have people at the ready to offer one-on-one assistance. So Anne might assign one of her consultants to help, and maybe we'll go through the registration process with you, or take a look at your commercial plan, or perhaps even read through a solicitation. SBIR has so many different ways people can access assistance because it's complicated. It's certainly, once you've done it, is not rocket science to get through, but there are a lot of stumbling blocks. It can be very time consuming and really frustrating if you don't have someone who's walked it before you to lend a hand. Really, SBIR is positioned within the states to bring newcomers into the program rapidly through organizations like the ones sponsoring this workshop. With that, Del, I'll hand it back to you.
Thanks, Christy. And so I'm going to give a multi-level answer to this question because I like to buck the trends. One, I'm going to answer the second part of the question first. Should I pay for someone to help me with a proposal? Depends. If you're using them like Evelyn said, I'm using them like, Anne and Christy have highlighted for things like, phase zero proposal development. Sure, bring them in to help write a portion, help you kind of structure your idea, help you think through it. One thing people forget is when these proposals are reviewed, do you know who reviews them? Human beings. People like you. people like us, people that have been in the business, people that are technical people that are scientists, people that are commercialization people. Lots of different types of people read these, and they're going to come to it with their own ideas, what they see, what they look for, what is important to them. But one thing that stands out, and I can tell you this from being part of being part of an organization that's been a FAST awardee for the past 8 years, and me being part of the organization for, God, I don't know, 6 of them. And then also being part of a small business going after SBIRs. You know what stands out to me? When somebody writes the proposal that doesn't know the innovation, backwards, forwards, upside, downside, inside, outside, they don't know the innovation. And that stands out. And each time you bring in somebody that you go, well, I'll hire this person to write the proposal for me. One, why? That's cost you're not going to get back. Remember to pay yourself, guys. And two, people are going to know. People are going to know if somebody that doesn't live, eat, breathe, sleep, and really want this thing to get out there writes it, because it's going to stand out. And one of the big things that you've heard throughout today, and that you'll continue to hear, I get on my soapbox and scream to the heavens about it all the time, is you have to care about what you're doing. And that comes through in that proposal package. If the person doesn't believe in it, doesn't want it to be out there, doesn't care about it, frankly, it's going to seem half-assed. And reviewers are going to key in on that and go, well, why would we care about it? The person writing this didn't even care about it. So answer the second part of the question first. I've got to do stuff differently. Now, for the first part, what kind of assistance is available to help me with SBIRs? What kind of assistance do you need? Each one of us has a lot of different things we do. Like for the New Mexico FAST program, we put a lot of our tools online. We put a lot of our help online, whether it's a template, whether it's a guidance. You see this green screen behind me? I don't just own it because I like putting weird videos together. Well, I do like putting weird videos together, but that's not the only reason I own it. We have a YouTube channel with probably 180 different videos about SBIR stuff. We do workshops. We get out there and we talk about the programs because we believe in it. As I mentioned, I used to be part of a small business going after these before I came here and was one of the experts telling people how to go after it. So use the assistance that's out there. Use the tools that are out there. No matter what you're looking for, I can almost guarantee that it exists out there in this big collaborative thing that we call the innovation ecosystem. Find it. Make those connections. Do what Christy said. Do a Google search. Do what Jennifer told you about. Go to sbir.gov and go to the local, I think it's called local resources tab. Type in your state. Drill down to your zip code. Do whatever you have to find the assistance. There is help out there. There wouldn't be help out there if we didn't believe that these programs were worth it. They were worth taking that extra step. They were worth you moving forward. They were worth you, going through these hoops, but they're not really hoops. One of the panels earlier, that it was either the intro or the outro, I talked about, SBIR being this non-dilutive funding source. Do you know the big kind of critical thing about non-dilutive funding? You don't pay it back. You don't owe something to somebody else. You don't have to dilute your idea. You don't have to dilute your business. It's a great way for you to go, this is really risky. Nobody is going to give me money. If I'm going to go to venture capitalists right now, I'm just going to go bend over the barrel. And, they're going to want 80% for $20,000. And guess what these programs do? They allow you to go, no, let me figure this out. Let me belay some of this technical risk. So you can come back to them and go, yeah, no, I'm not giving you 80% for $20,000. I'll give you 8% for $200,000. And that's what these programs allow you to do. I mean, maybe not to that extreme, but you never know. It may be that you're being held back by figuring out that one feasibility aspect, that one problem that you can solve and that you can address, that everybody's going to be like, I'm sure everybody's seen the meme with Fry from Futurama with a fistful of dollars, take my money. Maybe that's what's holding you back, is a phase one to go, I think I can do this, but let me do some work to show how to move forward. So let's actually jump into another question, kind of based off of that. And I think it's really good to bring this in now, because we talked about, the proposals, we talked about that process. In y'all's eyes, we've all seen proposals. We've all seen winning proposals. We've all seen losing proposals. We've all seen, oh God, don't submit that proposals. So what differentiates a winning proposal to you? Are they more focused on theoretical? Are they more focused on experimental? Are there more technical aspects? What is one of those qualities that you say, well, we can't guarantee it's going to be a winning proposal. If I did, I would be Swami over here getting the lottery numbers right every single night. But one of those things that you can say, this is a quality that a winning proposal would have or should have. And rather than give an order, anybody take that wants.
I'd love to take that, and Christy can attest to this because she is definitely one of my right hand men here in Montana. So, folks, I just as a quick reminder, we are here to support you. This is here to. You guys can do this. So, how do you write a winning proposal? What's part of that secret sauce? And all of our agencies, our states have pretty good success rates with helping our clients, over the national average to achieve successful proposals. And what do we see in those? Are people that are able to articulate pretty technical concepts and translate that to describe what are the benefits to society, what are the benefits to that agency. For example, if you're addressing a Department of Defense or NASA, or even just broader public health or societal benefit. You want to be able to articulate very clearly why this innovation is important to develop. The technology behind it is cool. The technology behind it, the intellectual merits are important, and that will be part of your proposal. A research strategy, a project narrative, the technical and intellectual merits or technical R&D plan. It depends on what the agency is, what they call that. But every proposal is made up of your commercialization plan, typically a research plan, technical objectives, and a budget. Those are kind of those key areas. So be able to articulate very clearly why it's important that this research be done, and be able to be very clear in how you will spend that money. That's pretty important. They can see if you have a scope that is way too broad, that you cannot accomplish in 6 months worth of work for 150 or 300,000, depending on the agency. If your scope is too big, it's not going to get funded. If your team is not up to snuff, if you cannot competently carry this out, and that's going to come through in how well you articulate the importance and the significance of your proposed work, and how you outline the technical objectives or specific aims to accomplish that work, it will come through. If you're all over the board, it'll come through. You will not get funded. If you don't have a team that can really successfully help you with that product development, that'll come through. That is one of the key areas. And as I mentioned before, if your scope is, it really does not fit with the amount of money and the amount of time that you will be given, those are a few of the areas, Del, that we see that affect someone's competitiveness in this area. And there's so much more, but I want Christy and Evelyn, I'm sure, and Del, you'll have some great ideas to discuss too.
I'll jump in with a thought to follow Anne's comments. I see the SBIR proposal development process in sort of three types of pitches. There's the pitch that wages the scientific argument. There's the pitch that wages the commercial argument. and then there's the pitch for funding the research, so the budget. It's typical that we have a lead investigator or a project leader approach with expertise in one of those three. They're either a business expert that sees the potential of a scientific breakthrough that could lead to commercial success. They might be the scientist who has the invention in mind and comes from a research academic background and understands how to do the research. And there may be people who understand how to organize a project and its budget and can succeed in that way. It's rare that you have a person that has all three of those skills. And what's really wonderful is to see a proposal that's developed with all three perspectives managed and communicated artfully in a way that by the time the reviewer is completed reading the proposal, they're convinced that not only can the research succeed, but the company can succeed in commercializing a product, and that this company is capable of getting through a research project, maybe a phase 2 project, within the scope and their budget. So I look for the whole proposal product, being very full in those three areas. It's really easy to tell when you have a scientist that doesn't have business background, because they tend to overly speak about the science and they skate past the commercial plan, or vice versa. And so having that team that Anne talked about, where you have experts speaking to each part of the proposal in professionally and with authority, gives the reviewer a comfort level and leaning towards awarding funds for the project, where in a case where some part of the proposal is underdeveloped, they would be less likely to receive an award.
I just want to add, in my recent experience, just really understanding what makes a really successful proposal. It's mainly two things. It's the definition clearly of the problem. So if you're trying to solve a specific problem, you'll have a potential customer segment that has the need of, you know, X specific need, and what's the impact of you doing that R&D to help solve that need. And to emphasize on really just understand very clearly the problem. It's tricky because there are a lot of problems, right? That's why you're an entrepreneur, and that's why you're trying to innovate and bring the solution to market. But try to specify clearly the one problem that you're solving with this research, and clearly the impact of that, of what that is, and why is that worth investing. This type of funding is still funding. It's pretty risky, and more likely than not it won't succeed. So that is the mentality, I think, of a lot of reviewers. And even when you go out of this round of seed funding, you'll go to like the actual venture capital funding. That is the question, like, how risky is this to invest? And you are just really trying to articulate that you've done all the homework and you know all the uncertainties, and that you can contain that and you can address that. So definitely make sure you understand the problem really well, the number one problem you're trying to solve, the impact. And I've realized that that's hard. It's also an exercise of its own. So make sure that you share the problem with your innovation ecosystem. Like if you were talking to Dell or with Anne or Chrissy and myself, like tell me clearly, like, this is the problem you're solving, like this is the benefit, that's the need, and then all the pieces will come together. So really, I would say that's the number one thing I've seen that it's very successful, and like a lot of reviewers can emphasize, talk about the impact. And in the impact is, oh, I develop, this data set, or I've developed this prototype. Cool, like you have something that it's, maybe a prototype or maybe it's a drawing, and that you want to take it to the next phase. But what's the impact of having created that, right? So I would encourage everyone to think along those lines. And Dale, what do you think?
I'm everybody gave some really great answers. And I would like to give a little bit of a different answer that I think encompasses and something that we talked about these different elements. And all of these different elements are really important to have in a proposal package. But I'm about to hop up on a soapbox, and I'm sure that my fellow panelists here know what I'm about to talk about when I say my soapbox when it comes to proposals. And it is storytelling. It is having a good story. Evelyn talked about, being able to bring in evidence, being able to bring in data, and talked about, the commercialization. Christy talked about the partners being able to do the work. And don't get me wrong, those are definitely have to be in there. If you can't communicate that, if you can't give that to the reviewer and show that to the reviewer, then you're not going to get funded. But the communicating that's the story aspect. That's the being able to present information, being able to present it well. As a reminder, who reviews proposal packages? Humans, human beings. You're giving them a 15, 20, 25 page, 17 page, 10 page, whichever agency you're going for, is all over the board. But you're giving them a dense document full of all of this information, talking about, the market, talking about why you matter, talking about the problem, highlighting your objectives, highlighting how you're going to move forward, highlighting who's going to help you move forward. And if it's just kind of all crammed together and crammed in there, it's a slog to read through. It's a chore. And these people are charged with find out where this information is, figure it out. Does it actually make sense? Is it reasonable? Is this something we should fund? And if you make it the worst game of Where's Waldo in the world just for someone to get information and data, you're not going to get funded because they're going to overlook stuff. It's going to be hard for them to find. So for me, it's not just about all of these different elements. It's how you present those elements. And to me, that's the storytelling aspect. It's the put in a really great figure in there. Put in something that you can take 3, 4, 5 pages describing what this system looks like. Or you know what you could do? Take a half a page and give them the picture. Because when we read, we get something that pops up in our minds. We get our visual picture as we're going through it. Ambiguity is your worst enemy in these things. It is the thing that will sink proposals every single time. How do I know that? Because I've seen feedback from reviewers sinking proposals every single time based on ambiguity. I always like to tell people it's the nuance that kills you with these programs. And it's the nuance that kills you when you move forward with innovation. Don't leave things up for, figure it out. It might be there. You might be able to get this picture. Show it to them. Make sure that what's in their head matches what's on paper, what you're trying to get across, what you think is important, what you think is interesting. Because if they don't get it, if you're leaving a lot of things up for chance, if you're not showing it to them, if they're not understanding right, here's the ultimate thing, guys. If a reviewer doesn't understand the idea and can't find the information, whose fault that is? It's not their fault. It's your fault. You didn't present it right. You didn't show it to them. You didn't tell them how it needed to be. You didn't really reinforce it with them. It's not their fault that they didn't interpret your information in the right way. Ultimately, it's your fault. Why'd you leave it up for interpretation in the first place? Just show it to them. So for me, that is the hallmark of a winning proposal. It is that story aspect that allows somebody to start at page 1, get clued in, reach page 15 and say, why has somebody not given them money yet? If you can do that, that's a winning proposal. If you can foster that care, that somebody else besides you thinks, damn, this needs to be out there, that is what it takes to win. To me, that's a winning proposal. I'd like to get everybody else's thoughts on kind of that aspect. What do y'all think is important when it comes to kind of displaying information? Because we all tell people about that. We all, try to get them to figure it out. But at the end of the day, to you, what makes a good like narrative element that you go, this lets somebody grasp this?
Mhm. I think those are brilliant, and Dell, that was a great summary. Exactly, folks. It's one error that folks, especially when you're brilliant and you've got this incredible deep technology or some other application, and you're in your head and you know all about it. Do not take advantage, or do not make assumptions that someone else is going to get it. Make sure, spell it out, go ahead and tell them what you want them to be very, very clear about. So tell that in there. Do tell it like a story. Christy is excellent about this at soliciting from our clients. Um, uh, Give us an example of that. Tell us a story. A real story is brilliant. If you have a case study of someone that you can weave that and use that as a thread throughout your narrative, that can really be helpful to help tell a story. So that's not necessarily a visual, Adele, but if you have something like that, again, don't make it relevant, don't make it trite. It does have to fit in with the technical scope of what you're trying to write. These are technical proposals, but be as clear as possible. Write them in layman's terms. Yes, you will have technical experts reviewing your proposals, but they are not necessarily as technical of an expert in that exact thing as you are, right? It's sort of like getting a PhD. You are actually the expert in that specific area. So make sure that you're respecting the intelligence of your reviewers by going ahead and explaining what's important. Put things in order as the solicitation outlines. Make sure that it's not hard for them to find the information that they're looking for. And as Dell mentioned, use imagery, relevant graphs, a Gantt chart, relevant pictures of appropriate use cases as they support the narrative are really helpful. They make it easy on the eyes. They help give your reviewers, a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? Reference the content of the picture in your narrative, but go ahead and let that imagery really add a lot of oomph to what you're proposing in your narrative. And I'll let other people mention their thoughts.
I really like the idea of weaving in the personal examples or the even a little bit of the story of what made this particular problem of interest to you. Why did you jump on this bandwagon? And it's to have the balance of the storytelling, the layperson's conversation, as well as the technical material is a bit of a stretch, but really that will address the all three potentials that a reviewer needs to have to feel comfortable with your work. It's so easy to think it has to be strictly academic, but as Dell has pointed out a couple times, you really need to strum the heartstrings of the reader as well, because you'll have a lot of competition on that desk with your proposal and many others. And the proposals that have the strongest story, the biggest impact, and the most emotionally impactful to the reviewer could be what swings their decision on how to grade your work.
I would like to add that once you have done a little bit of market research and you have identified like really good market data, and for example, you said, there's no one, and this is very common, right? It's like no one is doing the research or the innovation that I'm trying to do. Okay, that could be true. So how can you back that argument? Like, what's the evidence? If you have a data or a number that says, I am the only one and there's like a few competitors. Okay, what does that mean to your narrative? That means that you have a competitive advantage for this very innovative technology. That's a really good and compelling thing. So you have that market commercialization data. And another data you will want to add is how many people, what's the urgency of this innovation and how many people it could impact. So if there is, 10 out of 20 people in the state of Alaska, or 5 out of 10 people suffer from XYZ or are looking for this type of solution and I can bring it, that just adds more to your narrative. So try to find data, and not all data is good, right? Like you need to rationalize as well what is gonna work better for your narrative. But try to find like these urgent data points that back up why you think it's important. So, and if you don't know this data, then that's fine. I mean, go back, take a step back, and go back to your market research. Take a step back and go and do more research about your innovation and the industry you're trying to enter. So this just means that you just need to be 100% the basically expert on the topic. So find out this data that will impact and give people, oh wow, like if I fund this SBIR phase one, this could potentially help 5 people out of 20 in the state of Alaska, or this could potentially help like 200 farmers in Alaska. I mean, all these numbers are very important because what people want to say is, okay, so at the end of the day, it's a business, right? So my investment here will have a huge impact. That's what all investors want, right? They don't want just for you to fix one problem for one farmer in a very remote area in the state of Alaska. And you're looking at that type of narrative, then maybe that doesn't sound very compelling. So you also need to be some sort of like salesperson, right? And a lot of people doesn't like the term salesperson, but in this case, you want to be the right type of salesperson because you have to sell yourself as a very amazing entrepreneur, and then sell your innovation as an amazing idea, but also sell the urgency of the issue. And if this is something that you're doing full time, it better be urgent that you need to bring it to reality, right? Like, why would you want to solve something that no one wants? That's crazy. Like, you rather just pivot to something that you really want to solve because it's worth solving, it's saving lives, and it's obviously like need to be funding ASAP, right? So I think that's just the main things I want to say. Like, find that data. And if you're doing compelling research, but it's not very impactful, then think about it. Like, how can I pivot this research? Like, can I add a layer of AI? Can I add a layer of renewable energy? Can I add a layer for, defense mechanism? How can this maybe help the DoD? I mean, these are all questions that it is applicable, and you just could add some emerging technologies out there. And that's sort of like the sky is the limit. I think with SBR and innovation entrepreneurship at point, it's like you really have a lot of power and like bringing these innovations to life, and like how you see it in the world, it's also like your own imagination. So just a couple things out there, but yeah, it's just fun. Just have a great time as well.
I'd like to throw out two things to kind of wrap together everything that my other panelists talked about here. One of them is Evelyn brought up a term, and it's seen as a dirty term by a lot of people, and that's sales. You have to be able to sell this. And for anybody that has never written an SBR proposal, I tell them it's a 50-50, and not a 50-50 shot. It is half academic treatsy. You're talking about all of the things that you're doing, the ways that you're bending the fabric of reality and changing our understanding of what drives the universe. And that's really important. That's the innovation component. That's how it's unique, how it's different. And the other half, it's a sales document. It is straight up a sales document. You have to show the commercial potential. You have to show why people care. You have to show how they care. You have to show when they care. You have to show how they're going to care, how much they're going to care. It is this weird intermix of half of it's academic treaty, half of it's a sales document, and you have to mash them together. But the storytelling comes in and how you actually make that make sense, how you kind of link these ideas together and you go, yeah, this thing is important. People are going to buy this because they have this problem. They want to address this problem. Here's how pervasive this problem is. Here's why people want to address it. Here's how it's going to impact their lives. Because that brings in the other thing that I would like to kind of reinforce that everybody else talked about is, guys, you have to show the passion. You have to show why you actually want to do this. Mm-hmm. There is some reason you are moving forward with this innovation. there's some reason you're moving forward with creating this product. Product development's hard. It takes a long time and it takes a lot of effort. But you care about this. You care about this in some way. Maybe it is that personal story. It impacts, my mother had this and her mother before her and her mother before her back to, I don't know, ancient Mesopotamia, wherever far back you draw your family lineage. Or, I have this and I know these people and I know how this affects them and they can't go out and see little Billy's, t-ball game, and little Billy's going to grow up in a jaded home, and whatever that personal impact is. But ultimately, why are you creating this? Why do you care about solving this problem? Why do you care about addressing it? It's great to have that, commercial data and that market data about, your customer, why your customer cares. You do need that. But you have to be able to show that you want to get this to the market, that there's something else just besides cold hard cash that's driving you forward. I mean, cold hard cash is awesome. I wish I had more of it. But cold hard cash isn't resilience. And that's one of the things that you need to be able to bring to the table, resilience. Remember what I just said? Product development is hard. You are going to get socked in the mouth. You're going to get punched. And you're going to go, all right, let me dust myself off, get myself back up, collect my thoughts, and move in a different direction, because this is ultimately stopped. I need to pivot. I need to change something here. And people go, well, that's not going to happen to me. Nonsense. It happens to everybody, because you are always going to change. If you walk into a project and walk into a product development and go, I can't learn anything, I have this down pat, this is the greatest thing ever, I'm not going to have to change it whatsoever. Congratulations. You just set yourself up for failure. You're going to learn, and you need to be able to take that learning. You need to be able to take that advice. You need to be able to talk to those people that you heard about on panels earlier today, those potential partners, those team members, the people that can help you navigate that, whether it's financial assistance, whether it's an intellectual property assistance, whether it's budgeting assistance, or whether it's just even proposal development assistance. Take their advice, address their advice, but keep at it, because you have to care. And the way you're going to show you care is, why does this matter to you? Why, at the end of the day, do you want to release this, rather than just, I'm going to sell, 4 metric tons of these and then retire to a beach in Barbados for the rest of my life? At the end of the day, what gets you out of bed about creating this product and creating this innovation? That needs to come through, because that also sells proposals. That passion, that drive, it sounds corny, but the want to change the world. Innovators want to change the world. Entrepreneurs want to change the world. Why do you want to change the world? Why do you want to change your little section of the world? Show that. Make sure that shines through. Let's see. So looking through our other questions here. I'd like to throw out a question, just out of curiosity's sake, because you have a lot of old salts that are on this panel here. Not old that is in age-wise. Everybody, keep your pitchforks at bay. But that have just been around the bend, know a lot about the programs. And Evelyn, since you're really new to the ecosystem and SBIR and STTR, and I think this actually will resonate really well with the audience, what was surprising to you to learn about these programs? What just made you gasp in horror, fan yourself and go, oh, mercy me, whenever you found out about when it comes to SBIR and STTR?
Well, I really appreciate being put on the spot, so thank you, Del. And I am honestly, the first time I learned about SBIR, I was actually collaborating with an entrepreneur, and she had a very similar journey. She heard about SBIR, she didn't have enough time to look into it, and she relied on me as an intern to figure it out. So I was kind of like thrown to this world, and I had absolutely no idea about what it was. I just knew that they were going to give us money to do product development. And the first thing that I did, I really just went to the website and going through the SBI, SBIA, SBIR.gov. I was surprised just because it was pretty straightforward and I was able in maybe 10 minutes to understand that this was about federal agencies and that federal agencies had topics. And that for me was the baseline of me mapping in my brain, okay, so this is actually a little bit more, difficult than I expected, but also a world of opportunities. And that really resonated in me, and especially as a entrepreneur and someone that is new to the ecosystem, and honestly in this country, just how amazing this program is. And I've never seen anything like it before in other countries, and having access to this type of seed funding, like really early stage, like if you were to be working in your garage, had no money, decided to quit your job, had bills to pay, had a family to probably support, or a pet, um, and this was your only bet, you could actually make it work if you are able to figure it out. And that was in itself like a big like moment of like, oh, no way, this is just really like an American thing. And that really kind of like gave me the, I'll say like the extra push to go to the next step, which was sign up for events. And that is essentially what I did. I figured out where to find SBAR, STTR events from supporting organizations in the state that I was at, and also hosted by the federal agencies. So I went to webinars, workshops, and it all continued for me to be, okay, this is crazy. This is for free. And that journey then led me to, oh my goodness, I can find people's email addresses. And that was also a great realization, because I could actually email someone from the NSF and tell them, hey, like I really want to learn more about SBAR. I think I have a really good project pitch, but I'm not a 100% sure if I'm a good fit. What does that mean? What should I do? And they were very kind enough, and I would have to emphasize on kind enough, that they respond to me. And that was also a surprise, right? Like we know everyone is super busy, and when you're really new to this type of programming, it is one of those things that it is just definitely, like probably they get 100 or maybe 1,000 emails a day. I'm guessing, I don't know. But to be able to get a response that it's, like these are the things that you need to do, read more in the website, submit your project pitch. We will send you an email back. We'll give you edits. We'll ask for more information if needed. And then we'll follow up and you'll be invited to submit a proposal. That was really helpful for me. And I think that what people also, I hope people understand as well, is that when you take one step and open this window, you will get support. It doesn't matter kind of like what, when, who, where, but you will kind of like open that window and someone will get back to you. Someone will email you. Someone will send you to the right resource. Someone will see, okay, let's get you to the right place, because you might not be there. And that's fine if you're not in the right place. I think maybe the best thing to know at the beginning is to know that you're not in the right place. You want to get there, right? So try to figure out where is the place you got to be at. And those were like, I think the top three things that I really thought this was just worthwhile. And after that journey, really just meeting other successful awardees, because it seems like a very impossible type of mission, right? It's like, I have to figure out a topic. I need to write this grant. I need to, if you're not a technical expert, I need to find obviously a postdoc, a PhD, someone that has a technical experience. And then I need to, do this R&D. But it really is like, once you meet someone that has been through that process and like has a success story, and I think that's kind of like also like a big realization of like, this is possible. Like they were like me, they were, like really early stage, they were also entrepreneurs, they didn't know what SBR was, but somehow they figured it out. Yes, like that is a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel. So I think like if you guys have access to talk to another SBR awardee or network, definitely do that and ask questions. I think everyone in this ecosystem, and especially in the SBR, SBA world, like everyone is really open to network and have conversations and support each other. So for example, earlier today in the SBAR SOS panel, I was just really mind blown by the recent awardee, and she was just telling us like that one of the biggest things they have to do is being patient. And I agree, because this also is not going to happen overnight. And a lot of the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem things, like they're not going to happen in a month, not in 2 months, maybe not in 6 months, maybe it will take a year. And that's true, right? Like you have to be very patient, very resilient. So like meet other entrepreneurs. If they are not SVR worthies, also try to network with other entrepreneurs, because they might be going through something you might be going as well. But if you meet a SVR awardee, ask them like, how did you selected an agency? Like that's a fair question. It doesn't, bring any kind of uh, patent or licensing or innovation um, information to light. It's just, well, how did you pick your agency? What was your topic like? And then did you email your program manager? And I think that actually that might be something to do as well. Once you have figured out what agency, I think also program managers are able to answer a few questions, and there's a period of time that's called the pre-release period that agencies have available to answer any sorts of inquiry or technical question if you're a good fit or not for the programming. So that's also something good to know. I think that I realized that kind of probably really late. I just email people without without during that, not in during that period, and I figure out that, oh, there is a period to ask these questions, Evelyn. And I was like, okay, sorry, but still, like, I got an answer back, and he was like, sorry, we can't answer anything right now, but next time if you email us in this time, you can get your answers. So that was kind of like, okay, like you will get a response. So just like just to summarize, just like open the window, and once you do take that first step, even if it's just go to the website, SBR website, just do that today. Like that will take you probably more miles ahead of the game than anyone else that hasn't been to, the website, or anyone else that just went to the attended the virtual conference today and decided not to take extra steps. So I will challenge you watching, go to the SBR website, read 10 minutes what they have, and just see what you'll learn today. And there are like in the launch panel, there are some agencies that will be having topics upcoming in the next couple of months. So figure those out. Like I'm gonna give you a hint. The DOE is, so that's just the one that I'm gonna give away. But there are some other agencies. I know the Navy is as well, and they're in the panel, NOAA as well. So just kind of get curious. I think that's my biggest advice. But then this program is amazing. Not every country has it, and I think we're very lucky to be able to access this type of funding.
That's great. Evelyn, those are great points. And Del, one thing I wanted to, add to this, being maybe more veteran now, that I thank you to Christy, who I call my fairy godmother, for teaching me almost everything I know with this program. But you will not be worse for wear going through this, everyone. If you have a technology that is right for this, news alert. Not everyone who submits a proposal to SBIR or STTR is funded. Working with coaches can increase your success rate, but regardless, you will not be worse for wear. You will have a better idea. You'll have much more clarity about what your product development goals are. You'll have much more clarity about how you should pitch for either subsequent SBIR proposals. You could try again, and or to seek other types of funding. Even if you're talking about an SBA loan, you still have to present in a sense, a pitch to a loan officer as to why, how those funds will be used if you pitch to an angel or other investors. And Evelyn had mentioned it earlier on in our panel as well. This funding is one tactic in your overall financial strategy, but it is brilliant just for those reasons. It's non-dilutive. You have much more clarity with your product development goals. It does de-risk it for future investors, depending on the agency and the type of technology that you have. It may open up opportunities for other contracting opportunities, sole source contracting opportunities with a federal agency like the DoD or NASA potentially as well. So, and again, what's the worst? If you do not get this funding, you should continue do this in concurrent planning with your technology development. I can say for a fact, I wish everybody that we work with was funded. They're not. We're about between 40 to 45%, kind of depending on the quarter and agents and area time of year. In terms of the success rate. Overall, nationally, it's about 17% or so. So you've got a leg up with working with coaches like us. But that also means that 55% of people I work with are not funded, at least initially. But I've had people who still go on to participate in other accelerators. They still go on to achieve additional other types of investment funds. And I'm like, amen, guys. So again, your goal is not to get SBIR. Your tactic is to grow your business by leveraging a really brilliant source of seed funding, America's seed funding.
I like that both you, Ann, and Evelyn brought up a couple of times now the fact that, and this is something I try to drill into everybody's head, is SBIR is not your business plan. SBIR is not your product. It's a way to get there. I was on a panel, not the past Tech Connect, but the one before, where that was one of my questions to the audience was, who here thinks that SBIR is their product? Raise your hand. And for everybody that raised their hand, I was like, okay, I'm going to come out in the audience with a rolled up newspaper and whack you on the nose because bad dog. No, that's not what these programs are about. They are about a way to help you continue to move forward, to help you kind of take that next step. They're ultimately not the way to fund your business. And I think that's a pretty good preamble to the last question that I'd like to pose before our panelist here, because it's on everybody's mind. And we actually had somebody drop it in the chat. We had a couple of questions about it whenever we did the tickets. Reauthorization. They increased the restrictions for, in the new reauthorization, they increased the restrictions for, that transition rate, that benchmark rate, particularly for commercialization. And what do we think about kind of reauthorization and some of the new directives that are set within reauthorization? I'll let Christy go first on this one.
Reauthorization chaos and flurry, happens every few years. And anyone whose livelihood is connected with the SBIR programs or their research funding is strongly supported by it, feels a lot of concern. Over the decades, I have seen our American Congress people support SBIR through all kinds of economic challenges. So this particular session was nothing new as far as what we old timers have seen come through. The concerns that the changes are addressing, I will say, are probably more directed at serial SPIR companies that are going back to the well over and over again without having positive commercial results on products that they've pitched in their SBIRs before. So the SBIR program, although one would wonder on whether or not it's exploited by bad actors, the truth is the percentages of fraud discovered in SBIR, whether it be from what are called SBIR mills, those are the companies that just keep going back, but they never really want to commercialize, or even waste, fraud, and abuse within the SBIR program for just one grant. Someone took the money and they did something else with it. The percentages are so very low. But our Congress people are the stewards of our money. So it makes sense that they would want to be sure that the people who are going to produce viable commercial products and going to conduct the research as they said they would are the ones getting the awards. So in some respects, these regulations are important and they kind of keep the bad folks out. They can be scary and annoying as well. But your SBIR practitioner, your coach, can help you through those concerns as well.
Right. One thing about that, I'm so happy to see the reauthorization come through kind of at the 11th hour. I will admit to going back to look at the votes, and everyone, all of our representatives, our Congress people from Montana voted for the reauthorization. So thank you. A conservative state, people might think otherwise, but no, because they see. I want. This is my take on this. It's not from the SBA, but I will say America's Seed Fund really is not a small business program from the outset. The focus is specifically to help increase the competitiveness of our nation, the technology innovations that strengthens, it helps support, it protects us from bad actors and geopolitical situations. It really does keep us at the lead to provide both opportunity for our economy as well as defensive and offensive support to help our nation. And the way they do that with this small percentage of the extramural budget of these agencies is to very smartly invest it in small businesses that are much more agile, that are much more innovative, that are coming up with these new ideas because they're not in this huge ship that they have to turn, or they don't have to jump through a gajillion different hoops to try to get a new project, an R&D project done. But a small business can do that, and they're coming up with the good ideas. It's smart for the U.S. to invest this money in small businesses and to drive technology. For you all, leverage that in how can you help our nation broadly, right? Evelyn had a great idea, talking about the stories and backing it up with data. What are the impacts? But you're a small business, and you can learn the right things to do with this money. You can learn how to leverage this to grow your business. But with that said, through the commercialization aspects and things like that, the government, for you to achieve that impact. And in fact, I think I heard Ella bring it up in one of the panels earlier, and Carlos addressed it from Florida. And I say it often, the way for you to have the impact, the way for your technology to have the impact is for you to build a product that sells, that you can sell to people, and for your company to stay in business. So do the right thing. Make sure that you're leveraging this funding for the right reasons to help you with that product development, and then do everything else. This is not going to be the only source of funding that you need. Ideally, the sources of funding that you get to are selling of your product and or services. So make sure that you're staying in business so that we can all benefit from the cool impact that your technology will bring.
I'd like to.
Can go next. Del, do you want to
Yeah,
go
go ahead,
next?
Evelyn.
I think this is a really interesting time, and not only for the SBR program, but also for entrepreneurs and states. And we're facing a lot of challenges that are addressable with innovation, and it is addressable through also commercialization, and that's what the SBR program is all about, to commercialize. And I think as a support organization, the goal is really to see all of our innovators like see the success. I mean, it's kind of like a full circle of like early stage entrepreneurship, idea development, economic development, business development, creation of jobs, innovation implementation. I mean, it's just a full circle of a program, and commercialization, and like having a strong business success story, it's part of that as well. So I think it really complements also like the current challenges, and it really gives people like more of an emphasis of like, hey, commercialization is important and you can do it. And there's, I can't think of a reason why some companies are able to commercialize more that are SBR funded than others. And maybe it has to be more intentional, and maybe there also has to be potentially also try to find the right commercial partners. And that's why we're also part of the innovation ecosystem, right? It's not only us, it's not only SBR, STTR fast programs, but also we work with the SBA, with the SBDC. There are the World Trade Centers. I mean, you could go global. I mean, that's kind of like sort of where a lot of the thing really is. So I think it's an awesome opportunity, and I would like to say that for all SBR, STTR potential participants, just really think this as another tool for your business plan. And that's the only thing I want to share.
And I think everybody gave some really great responses there. And we're slightly over time, but that's fine. It's our event, our panel. We can be over time. So I'd like to kind of reinforce one of the things that our panelists talked about, and then we're going to close it out with kind of that thought is reauthorization. So there's one thing I'd like to remind people about the reauthorization is the reauthorization didn't just lay out, these new commercialization and benchmarking standards. It also did some other really great things. It continued the direct to phase 2, continued some of the commercialization assistance programs, which are really key for you to actually be able to move forward and commercialize your product. Because ultimately, that's what you're supposed to be trying to do here. Get into that in a little bit. But one of the new things that it didn't really continue was that Congress mandated each one of the DoD service components will now have an open innovation topic. It is not just Air Force. That has rapidly expanded your ability to pitch ideas to DoD, because DoD notoriously has problems. They set up their topics that way. They want to address a certain issue. And if it doesn't appear in that cycle, tough luck. Hope that it appears in the next one. Now you get that opportunity to just pitch to them and say, I know you have this issue. I can fix it for you. Here's how I can fix it. One, that opens all sorts of doors. Everybody should be out there celebrating that fact, because those are also the open innovation ones, a really great rapid way to know if you got an award and to start working on the award. Now let's dive into the commercialization benchmark. SBIR mills are something that everybody kind of treats as the boogeyman. But as Christy pointed out, and Anne did too, small percentage of companies that are SBIR mills. You have to be winning a hell of a lot of awards before you would even potentially fall victim into that. And that's for companies that just are not trying to commercialize whatsoever. If you are getting to the point that you might be in trouble of being an SBIR mill, you have a crappy company. Sorry, you do, because you can't commercialize. Commercialization is where the money comes from. Commercialization is where growth comes into. You're not going to grow your company. You're not going to have a successful company. You're not going to get into a market by just continuing to win awards and continuing to limp along. If that's what you're doing, Old Yeller your company. Take it out behind the woodshed and, put the shotgun to it. It needs it. Start over fresh. There's something that you're not doing right, because that is what innovation is about. That's what the driver for innovation is. It's about creating these amazing products that are going to change our lives. And if you don't want to participate in that, cool. There's other ways that you can get funding for your company. Not these programs, though. Leave my programs alone. Let them grow innovation. So yes, it's a really great step forward that, reauthorization did by increasing the benchmark. But the benchmark is at such a high level that if you're getting close to the benchmark, you got way bigger issues with your company than SBIR. You were doing something very, very wrong. So let's just keep that kind of in line with people, because again, these programs are about growing innovative ideas into necessary and needed products. And if you're not doing that, go do something else. That's not what these programs are. That's not what these programs are about. And if you're, again, getting towards that benchmark, then you have an unhealthy company. I'm going to use a very weird example, but we're all about weird examples here. So in my time and the weird stuff that I've done and weird committees I've sat on, there was this small mountain town that was trying to figure out what they wanted to do for an economic development project. And they could either look at bringing in larger industry, actually, becoming a player, becoming a powerhouse, or they could draw in more, chalets and, tourism. Each one of those would grow the economy of the town. One of them is exponentially bigger. One of them keeps with the status quo because you tap out. Eventually, you just reach saturation point. Do you know which one is which? Don't treat SBIR like you're a tourism business and you're just trying to, build a new hotel. That all you're doing is moving the benchmark that much. It's not what these are about. One great step, or one small step, one great leap. That's what these programs are about. Don't be the one small step and I'll continue on. One small step and I can make it to the next payday. No, you use that small step for a great leap. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. Don't just continue to step and pace and walk around in a circle. Use that as a way to actually go on that journey. Take us with you on that journey. Get somewhere you need to be. Get somewhere that you're going to matter at the end of the day. My weird soapbox. So let me, put that soapbox aside. But, reauthorization, what they did with it, there's some really great things that they did with it. There's some other things that's like, okay, well, and just like Ann said, I'm not with SBA, so don't call SBA complaining about me talking here. But there's also some stuff that they did that, guys, if you're getting close to those benchmarks, you're doing something terrible anyways. You're doing something really, really wrong. So don't be that kind of company. Don't be that kind of guy. And you know what? That's actually going to end us here for our panel and end us here for our first day. So thank you, Ann, Evelyn, and Christy for being on this panel and actually just being part of this effort. The Mesas to Mountains was a really collaborative effort between all of our organizations and University of Idaho as well. Idaho. Sorry, it's been a very long day. And we want to help organizations like yours. We want to help businesses like yours. So if you're in New Mexico, reach out to me. If you're not in New Mexico, still reach out. Reach out to any of us. We may not be the organization that can help you, but damn sure we know an organization that can, and that is in your area, in your state, in your region, that can help you move forward. So I'm going to just go ahead and actually move into some closing remarks here. So let me take control back here. And, you've heard a lot about innovation today, and you heard a lot about us talking about the innovation ecosystem. And we hope that last panel really did shed some light on this ecosystem, how thriving it is, how you can be part of it, what you can tap into, some of the resources that are out there, some of the knowledge that you need. And we hope that we answered, any of the questions that you had on who can help me, can they help me, and why should I have these people in my Rolodex? Because, knowledge points like that are what makes this such a kind of vibrant and thriving ecosystem. This is going to be the end to our first day of the Mesas to Mountains Innovation Summit, not the end to our event. We will be back tomorrow. And tomorrow we'll have another bevy of amazing speakers like you heard today, really great booth representatives like hopefully you visited today. Another just expanse of really knowledgeable panelists that are going to kind of clue you in, help you think more, help you think broader, and help you figure out what can I tap into, why can I tap into it, and why should I actually tap into it. The panelists you heard from today, the booth people that hopefully you visited, any of our speakers today, they made this a really amazing first day of this great 2-day event. And tomorrow, you're going to hear from a lot of the similar, not the same representatives. We're bringing new people to the stage, mostly. And they're going to focus differently. We're going to talk about things like patenting, things like protections, things like working with research institutions. We kind of talked about how there's all these other agencies and other organizations you can tap into, like federal labs or universities or some of the DoD labs. Well, you're going to hear from them tomorrow, and you're going to hear from them on how they can work with you, how they can collaborate, and hopefully how they can help you move forward with turning that innovative idea into a world-class, amazing product. So we hope to see all of you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Enjoy your evening, and come tomorrow with an open mind, a sense of learning, and a craving for knowledge in those areas I just highlighted. Enjoy your evening, folks.